Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart when we can podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I am the mistress of the Winter Constellations, your Captain Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have.
I'm Clyde Haynes. Who needs a rock star? I want to party like an Orion.
And I am DePaul.
What was the dad's name? That cracked me up.
It's like I don't know, like it was like Bart or Bert, but like it was
like DeBart.
It wasn't.
No, it was just Bert. It was like this is
Bert.
No.
This is my mom, and this is like Bart.
I think it starts with a P, like like I think male start with a P, like Pabert, or I don't know. It was something like that.
It was funny. It made me chuckle. Tonight we are talking about the 4th episode of season 4 of Lower Decks, Something Borrowed, Something Green, which was directed by Bob Suarez, written by Grace Parajani. But first, just a couple reminders before we continue to dig in on our Orion Love Fest. Paul, where can people share this podcast?
Well, people can share this podcast on places like Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content, and we hope that you do, please consider joining our Patreon for just $2 an episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
Clyde, how can people interact with us tonight if they're watching us live?
Write us a letter. You know what those things are. No,
stick it in the mail. Get a stamp.
Get a stamp, and you have to have the right postage if you don't have a forever stamp. Like, this is important.
That's true.
And for our listeners overseas, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it might be cheaper just to make a phone call. Here's what you do if you are listening to us live on the pod.
What do they do, Clyde? What do they do? What do they do?
This is what they do.
This is what they do.
This is it.
What do they do?
They type a capital P, then a capital O, then capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we will see your chat. And then if you have a thought and you're not part of our Patreons and you didn't put it in the message from the menagerie, then you can type capital H, capital F, capital HF, and we will take a look at your thoughts about the overall episode 4. Yes, we will.
Indeed. Okay, I think it is time for us to get into some It's time for some hot breaks. We're going to start with our messages from the menagerie, which, if you don't know, if you're a part of our Patreon, you get to let us know what you thought about the episode, so that even if you can't join us live during the live stream, you can still let us know what you thought about this episode. So from Carmen, we have Hot Freak. This was a fun episode where we get to learn more about Tendy's background and further character development of T'Lyn, who is a great addition to the Lower Decks team. The Brotherford roommate situation was a good side plot. I really want to know who the big bad is in the mystery ship. Indeed. Karen says, this was super fun. Triple threat girls trip. No wonder Tendy was so good against those Romulans and Veritas. Hopefully this is right up there as one of my faves. Oh, honestly, this is right up there as one of my faves. But above all, the chemistry between Tendy, Mariner, and T'Lyn was what raised this. Too many bots to comment on, except one note is that this was the first ship that was attacked, not with that ship laying in wait, but because they went after it. This is also the first time one of the ships was mentioned by our crew, so Starfleet is starting to worry. Kuhn says, Hot Freak, I could have lived without the Rutherford Boimler plot to see more of Tendy, Mariner, and T'Lyn in action. We learned more about Orion culture in this episode than nearly 60 years of Star Trek. Correct. I loved it. And then Home Chicky says, crazy theory, big bad mystery ship is Peanut Hamper.
Boom! Everyone's. Let's get on it.
Pew, 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 pew. Peanut Hamper time.
Pew.
Yes.
All great hot freaks messages from our menagerie. We appreciate y'all. Paul, what was your hot freak of this episode?
My hot freak. I thought this is probably my favorite episode of the season by far. Like, you know, the Voyager one was great and stuff like that, but this did not rely on any stuff aside from just the scant amount of Orion info that we have. So we got a lot of new stuff, but it still felt very Lower Decks. Some people might not have loved the Boimler And what was it? No, it was not Boimler. It's
Rutherford.
Rutherford. Duh. Rutherford. But like, I don't know. Every time, you know, deep cut with like the Mark Twain bit.
Yeah.
And they were just talking so funny, like, "Oh, I am but a crumb on the biscuit of your intellect," or whatever, something like that.
Okay, I
That's
think
pretty
by the
good,
end of
Bo.
this, we all have to give our best Mark Twain phraseology. I think mine would be, "That dog don't hunt."
I like that one. That was a good one. Man, there were
Clyde,
just
what
so
did you
many.
think?
I really did enjoy this episode quite a bit. One of the better episodes all around. Just I think we often on this pod talk about things that we wish, right? We want to know more. We always talk about backstory. We love the backstory, we love character development. And there are two characters that we've been asking for more backstory for a while, that being Tendi and Talin. And we got it in one episode. And so this girls trip, I mean, it was great. It was absolutely great. And I love Kern's comment. We really did learn more about the Orion culture than in 60 years of Trek. I mean, we got a little bit more with Discovery and the Syndicate, but like they've
And that's
really
like
taken,
future Orions,
that's
it's not
future,
like
but like Lower Decks has really jumped into that and been able to expand it as part of the canon more than any other series has, and it's pretty interesting. Like it was funny, it was informative. Definitely one of my favorite episodes. So I thought that was great. The Mark Twain bit was absolutely hilarious. um
Yeah.
and one of my favorite moments was when Mariner was commenting about how captains could get
Swindled.
swindled by 3 Orion dancers, and I was like, shout out to a little Enterprise, like
Your
nice to
favorite
the
your favorite
Enterprise and all.
series now.
I won't go that far, but I could appreciate bringing Enterprise into it. I will say that I don't think that's done enough. And
Yes.
so, but they've
Like
been doing more this season. They've some nods
Some
to
good
Archer,
Enterprise
some
love,
nods
yeah.
to the X-71. But yeah,
Yeah.
good, good Enterprise
just
stuff.
to bounce off that though, Clyde, like that episode that they're referring to, you have like 3 Orion girls dancing. That choreography is hot. I'm serious. It is hot. I'm going.
They
I was
he
watching and I was going, damn, this is good. Oh my god. And you completely understood why all the men were like, oh my god.
I
God.
mean,
It
I
definitely
can agree
it
with it being hot. I'm just not sure I'm agreeing that the it you referring to was the choreography, because I can't remember the
Oh
choreography.
man, everyone should go watch it again, and next week you
Oh,
tell me like
Paul is telling me to go watch that particular episode again.
that
Okay.
that
I
it's
feel like for a Patreon video, we should all learn the choreography and do the
oh
TikTok dance.
oh
Like do
that
it as like a TikTok dance.
that
Oh
like
wow.
seriously, it's
I don't
very
know. There's some arms things that I don't know that I could
I
do.
have full confidence in you, Clyde.
like I have you seen Myrriah? Like
It's been a really long time, so I don't remember,
like
but
it was like I haven't seen it in like it's burnt in my brain.
you're just
Like I haven't
like
seen it in
core
years,
memory
but
engaged.
I just remember I go like, oh, like Enterprise stepping up.
They hired the good choreography team.
Yeah.
No, that to me felt, I don't know about stepping up. That felt to me like that was right in line with Enterprise and the short shirts and the sonic steam things. Like Enterprise was stepping something up. I don't know if it was always the choreography.
I don't know.
Noted.
Anyway, that's my hot freak. I'm sorry, Myrriah. I'm stepping on your freak.
Okay, mine. I'll keep it short. Twin Twains.
Twin Twains.
My spouse and I literally rewound it back and let that run again because it like really tickled us in the correct way. It was so funny. I also really like the line, "This is the most about your backstory we've ever heard," that Mariner says about Tendi. And I was like, I appreciate when the show comments on itself. Like,
Oh, 100%, 100%.
I just think I agreed with both of y'all. This is probably one of my favorites of the entire season thus far. I love when we get backstory episodes. I love when we go to different planets. And I think it's some of the smartest writing we've seen
Yeah, 100%.
this
Yeah.
season, because it's
Facts.
also in Trek lore, it's correcting so much that was done that was like harmful, I think, in the way that by the end of this episode, I was like, so often these kind of like sexist tropes have been placed on Orion women. And by the end of this, you're like, oh, this is like a true matriarch society.
Mhm.
And like they have systems in place to use their matriarchal status as powers. And I'm like, I was full into it. I was like, this is dope. I'm really excited about it.
So what I'm hearing, Myrriah, is like
Mhm.
you feel, and this is I'm trying to like take
Uh-huh.
the words, but it feels like you're saying that like abuse of power is fine if it's done by women. Great, I'm totally fine with it. I'm on board. I'm on board. But that's what it sounds like you're saying.
I feel like what I'm actually saying is that they still have abuses of power, but it's not sexist, which feels slightly better.
There you go.
It's kind of like
That's
they were on one extreme, and to
Yeah.
balance that out, they went to another, and
Yes.
that feels healthy.
It feels like a society that has found its own priorities, and it's a culture that I want to learn more about.
Interesting enough, it didn't seem oppressive, which I thought was
because they're
fascinating.
we also only saw everything from like a high class family point of view, but
Crazy Rich Orion's point of view. That's what
Yeah.
happened.
it was Crazy Rich Orion's. Oh my god. Oh,
It was like
man.
watching this. It did occur to me that that a lot of Star Trek, you can like map their their species onto like the 7 deadly sins kind of thing, where like Ferengis are greedy, like Klingons are violent, Romulans and Vulcans are prideful, and like we don't really have a sexy one, like a lustful one, except perhaps the Orions. I mean, I can't think of one. So like, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting when I go like, oh, they're really leaning into this, like this sex forward society.
I gotta say, Choopy's right. Choopy says that it's kind of a stabby culture, though.
Yeah, they're very into
I mean,
that gag, the running gag with Mariner getting stabbed in the same place. Hysterical.
And what was so great about it character-wise for a series is that like normally Mariner is the alpha, but she is totally, the person who gets beat up. Like
she's like willing to take the hit so that Tendi can like be her most Tendi self. I did think this was interesting. Nicole says sexy would be Riza.
Yeah.
Oh, right. This is our second. Indeed.
The only thing that the stabbing Mariner joke missed for me was, and I had it in my head, so I didn't need it, was I just needed somebody to keep popping out and going, they stab Mariner, like every time she
I love it. I love
and that would have perfect for me.
Excellent.
How would you all think you'd fare in the murder bug game?
Not very well.
Well, what do you mean? You were just saying how like drugs don't affect you, Clyde. Like you'd be so good. You just drink, and then your liver would explode, but not before the bug bit you. I think you'd be fine.
I don't know. I mean, that was a crazy game.
Yeah, the nightclub scene was like one of the moments when they walked in that I was like, man, this is one of the times I kind of wish this was a live action show, because I'm sure the production design would have been, I mean, the animation was beautiful. I also have to say the animation in the first opening scene with the ships also looked great.
Yeah, no.
Really, really great. But it was just one of those times that I'm like, man, this would like these costumes and this like set would just look so cool.
Yeah, totes.
I was really, really into it. I also liked seeing the gal gang out of their uniforms. I thought that was like a fun change of pace.
Because you like midriffs.
Yeah, I'm into some midriff action. I like a crop top.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with some midriff.
Nothing wrong. I mean, 90s style is fully back in swing. I walked into a Target the other day and it felt like I was walking into a Delia's catalog. So it's all back in now. I thought the pheromone den was really wild and fun. Again, I was like, the production design would have been amazing, but that was a fun guest star moment too. It was Kamiko Glenn from Orange is the New Black played Madam G.
Okay.
Who I thought was a fun addition. And then Ariel Winter was the voice of Erica the sister.
Okay, so
Oh.
so that's Modern Family,
Modern
right?
Family.
Yeah, from
Mhm.
Modern Family. Chupi just asks, Pod, I love having Mariner and Talyn as kind of the Greek chorus for Tendi. Yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And definitely playing those two sides of like Mariner definitely egging on Tendi versus like Talyn making all of these like accurate assumptions and notes, and Tendi
Like
having to be like, no, please.
subtly, like like undercutting, like, oh, Orions, like, have vast wealth and, like, and don't
And
talk about
downplay. Yeah, they
downplay
Yeah.
it
downplay it.
while showing, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, did y'all have any suspicions that Tendi came from a vast amount of wealth?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What were the signs for you?
Like, it was last season when, like, we or was it the season before when they had to go get Ta'ana's, like, what you call it,
Oh, the box
the
thing.
box. Yeah, like, like people knew who she was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because we did last season. That's when we first heard the Mistress of Winter
mhm.
constellations.
So yeah, so I remember, like, you could tell that they, at least for my guess, like, they had an idea that oh, let's make her someone famous. I don't know if they knew that they're gonna make her like a prime master assassin on the fifth
Mhm.
largest family. We're barely the fifth largest syndicate family.
Well, it's interesting because I'm starting to see a pattern here with the Cerritos, right? Like this, like the crew of the Cerritos has this habit of being well off and like somewhat royalty. When you look at what's the engineer whose name's I can't remember.
Oh, Billups.
Phillips, yeah.
Billups is like the prince,
Like, he's
Mhm.
the heir. He's the
the
heir of, like,
heir,
that's right.
and then you've got Boimler, who is like the heir to the raisin,
The
Yeah,
Raisin
no,
Vineyard.
it,
the
it, it,
raisin
it,
vineyard.
it's literally the most privileged trust fund ship in Starfleet.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing to think about, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, even Mariners, both of her parents are
It's a
captains.
ship full of Nepo babies?
Yeah, I
Is this a
know.
ship of Nepo babies?
And Rutherford. That's it.
And
Rutherford.
Rutherford.
Yeah.
Rutherford's the only person who's like, like, I come from humble origins. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, Tendi is like pushing, she's the rebel of the group. It's like, I'm not going into the family business. I'm going to go do this thing that, I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to become this noble person, and like, don't judge me for the choices of my family and kind of vibe. And it is interesting to think about them all being little Nepo
Right.
babies.
But she ends up on a ship filled with people who said the same thing,
Mhm.
right? They all said, I'm not going into the family business. I'm not, even Mariner, I'm not doing it that way. You can't
Yeah.
make me. They're all, it's like it's Nepo rebels, is what it is.
Well,
Just
now I
Nepo
like them
rebels.
less. Thank you, guys. Well, thank you for ruining it for me. Well
Oh
done.
no,
Well done.
our poor crew. How did y'all, or what did y'all think of Talyn in this episode as kind of our straight person of the group?
I think it worked out. I think it worked out great.
I love it. I feel like from the moment we were introduced with Talyn as an interesting character, this is what I've been like waiting for. And I think sometimes the tricky part is you've got this strong foursome with Rutherford and Tendi and Mariner and Boimler, and then you've got this kind of B ensemble with the senior officers. For someone like Talyn to come in, and here we are in season 4, and to kind of be introduced, it's tricky to break in when you've got all those characters around. So here we have an episode where it's really focused on the 3 of them, and she has space to shine, and I thought she really shined. Like it was just the great kind of, you've got the comedian, you've got the straight man, and then you've got this, the centerpiece. And, we talked about the Greek chorus. I thought as an ensemble, it really, really worked, and especially at the end when she was like, "Oh, it looks like my notepad has malfunctioned," and she threw it away. I was like, now she's part of the crew.
Yeah, this definitely felt like the episode between her kind of connections with Boimler and then her connecting with Mariner and Tendi this episode. It's been nice to see them kind of do this in a piecemeal instead of being like, oh, we need the whole group to then
Sure.
approve of her as being part of the group.
Sure.
I also like that she brings this sort of questioning of the Federation a little bit, right? Like she's only really there because she's trying to earn her way back to the Vulcan science programming. And so I find her to be interesting in that constant like questioning, but in a different way than Mariner, right? Like Mariner's always pushing up against the bureaucracy and the leadership that is asked of her versus like Tylin's kind of like, oh, I mean, the Federation's okay, I guess, like there's ways that we could be doing this better. So I've been enjoying her character as well. What did y'all think of our kind of B plot with Boimler and Rutherford playing on the holodeck?
I thought that the holodeck was, I think it was specific. It was one joke. It just hit the joke well. Like, I like when they were doing the bonsai tree, I didn't really care about that.
Right.
And so like, and whenever, anything that was in the holodeck with them playing Twain was like, this is throwaway. It doesn't really push their narrative at all. I don't learn anything about them. It's just a throwaway. But the Twain in this is just so funny.
So funny. Yeah.
I gotta agree with Paul.
It made me giggle. It was like, I know we needed a B plot, and I appreciated that this B plot, because it wasn't substantive, gave room. And I think the room I liked having so much room for the A plot with being on Orion. And I thought they did a good job of just like really hammering jokes in the B plot. They were like, like you're going to get to see a bunch of stuff and it's going to be fun and funny, but also like, a big character arc moment for Tendi. So instead of trying to build another character arc, we're just going to make you laugh. Like,
I thought it was great. Like, I did miss the fact that their room wasn't like slightly red because of the nacelle. Like, I think that was like, just if it was just a little bit red throughout the whole, I think that might have made it like an extra layer of joke. But
go ahead, Clyde.
I'll say I thought it was brilliantly written. So kudos to the writers, because to your point, Myrriah, when it first started out, I was really worried. I was like, this whole, like, I was thinking, like, what are we going to see? Are they going to get into a fight because they're hiding that they don't really like each other? And like, what is this about? And, they start fighting over this bonsai tree. And I'm like, are we serious? Like, all right, can we get back to the A plot? But it was all set up for that Twain joke. And when it first started out, like, first of all, I don't know what it's like if you've never watched Star Trek, right? Like, if this is like, if you're just, and let me rephrase that, if you just started watching since Discovery, I don't know what that scene was like for you, but the minute that they came in as Twain, that was a deep cut and throwback. And I felt myself sitting up because I was like, oh man, like, one of the weirdest and funniest things Trek has ever done is brought Mark Twain into the holodeck. Like, and they're gonna lean in. And then it was joke after joke. And like it again, like you mentioned earlier, Myrriah, they're almost laughing at themselves, and they're doing it in a way that honestly it was funnier and better than the original. And so I was like, I'm here for this. And then when they left the holodeck, I was a little disappointed. And then they came back and it didn't just, I was like, they really could have spent the entire episode on the holodeck in Twin Twains and I would have been okay.
The amount of money though that I would pay to watch Dawn Lewis doing her Mark Twain impression for that voiceover session. Like it truly, it gave me so much joy. Also, just like, I feel like I could hear them like laughing between having to do some of the takes of this dialogue. Like, sure. I really enjoyed it.
So real quick, I have a guest staying with me right now, and so I go like, oh shoot, I need to watch the episode again. So I'm watching it with her, and then like I was very cognizant, like, oh, I have a holodeck thing, and she's not a Star Trek person, and then we cut to like a wide shot of a steamboat, and I'm going like,
why do we need an establishing shot of a holodeck?
and I was going like, oh man, this is gonna make no sense to her whatsoever. It's like this is purely for me, like in this regard. So I thought it was great.
I hope she got a chuckle out of it. The Chalnoth as Mark Twain, also very funny. The line, that was a Southern accent.
That's right.
That was one of the best lines. Not only
So
was it
good.
Southern, he said, "I am from the south of somewhere." That is a Southern accent.
Yeah.
I was like, hat tip, sir, hat tip.
Truly, which is from that particular species is from a TNG episode, The Alliance. If you want to go back and watch it, they apparently did not believe in government, so society existed in a state of total anarchy, where only the strong survived. So I thought that was fun. They kind of played off of like, I need to feel very powerful in order to give you what you want.
Yeah, that's a really deep cut episode because it's not the best episode.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I did though, like I feel like both story plots kind of come around to this. With I thought the Tendi and Erica battle scene was also really fun. I thought there's some cool animation pieces there. I enjoyed the pacing of the fight as well as the kind of emotional arc that they set through it. Eventually they just come to the point like, oh, everyone just needs to talk about their feelings in a real and like truthful way, and then you can find a solution, which was the nice little bow on both plot points of this episode.
There you
But
go. We
Oh, yeah.
it
the
all
more you
wrapped up.
know.
That's right.
Message.
The rainbow comes across screen.
Mhm.
um Also, the ship that they stole at the end, the Tendi Hotwire ship, is a Raven class, which is the same one used by Seven's parents in
Sure.
Star Trek Voyager.
I was trying to figure out where that ship was from because when I
Mhm.
saw it, I was like, I immediately it came up and I was like, okay, that's the TNG like console screen in the background. Like I was like, okay, so where is this ship from? Um, and I just could not place it. So nice work, Myrriah.
I wanted to kind of come back to, since this is our big Tendi episode, how do you think this information now frames how you will think of Tendi going forward? If it changes it at all.
Well, let me ask you this: like, who was I talking to? I was talking to someone. I was talking to my friend Julie, and we're talking about something, and she goes, "Well, Paul, what if I told you that all this time I'm like actually an heiress? I'm like a billionaire,
Mm.
and like how would that change our relationship?" And I go, "Well, how about we do this? Let's say all this time you had cancer, and then all of a sudden, 15 years later, I go, oh, by the way, Julie, I have the cure for cancer." And I go like, how does it affect me? It doesn't affect me at all. But like, and it probably wouldn't affect any of them because they apparently come from a post scarcity society.
Yeah, that line from Mariner was funny. Yeah.
But I am not from a post scarcity.
Yeah. So the knowledge that Tendi comes from like a huge like Billups style castle family.
Yeah, I think that'd be like I think she'd be paying for dinner more often.
I mean, I would definitely know where I'm doing shore leave.
Yeah.
It would be like, hey, where are you guys going? To Tendy's house? Where else? Like,
Where there's the oil baths.
I'm
That's
telling
right.
you,
That's
like I
right.
didn't get my oil bath. We're going to hang out at Tendy's place. I think how it changes the way I look at Tendy is, when I think about this, when I think about these ensembles, it was 4, now it's kind of 5 with Talin. I always try and place it in terms of like the A team up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that this team, like Mariner's always been like the leader and kind of the tough person a bit. Now, Tendy's actually the muscle. And
Mm-hmm.
so, especially now that they're like Lieutenant JGs, I'm expecting like if they get into trouble, Tendy's the one who's like,
Gonna pull
you
out the
want Tendy
stops.
with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's a thought that I had, and I love watching Mariner. I love Boimler. I love Rutherford. I love Tendi, and I like Talin, and she'll probably grow me to watch. But ever to have to hang out with any of them, I don't know if I would like to hang out with Mariner. I actually don't know if I'd like to hang out with Boimler or Rutherford, but I'd probably want to hang out with Tendi from the very beginning because she's just enthusiastic and happy. And in my life, I need that. I don't need someone reckless, and I don't need
Mm-hmm.
someone necessarily neurotic or someone who's just so into, so that's just for me. So like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really affect how I see Tendi because Tendi, for all of it, has always been my favorite.
Gassed.
I don't know that I'm saying my favorite. I mean, but I agree the fact that Tindy would be awesome to hang out with. It's hard for me to say I wouldn't want to hang out with Mariner because I would do anything to hang out with Tawny Newsome. So except miss a wedding, apparently. So that's a little hard, but I do think hanging out with Tindy seems the most, I don't want to say normal, but balanced in terms of like she's smart but inquisitive. She's fun. She's got so much depth. She's definitely three-dimensional. It would be tough for me to hang out with Boems. He'd be tough.
I do think it's interesting though, like I really felt the point of this episode about how we hadn't really learned that much about her backstory. And it's kind of like that friend who is a good friend and like is there for you and asks you a ton of questions about yourself and like you go do fun things with, but then you still like there's so much of their life that remains like a mystery. Like Tendy's not the oversharer. And I think it was like partially based in some shame over like how people tend to think about the Orions and how, you know, her family falls into some of the tropes that I think she was scared of people thinking about her, right?
You know, that's a really interesting thought, Myrriah, and I think it's it also shows something else. That for the most part, our fearsome foursome, now fivesome, they talk a lot and a lot about themselves, and they don't listen that well,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. Clyde would
I mean, I'm
drop the
just calling out that like they're always so focused on, you know, especially Mariner and Boimler. They're always so focused on their plot, like what's
Sure.
going
They
on.
have the answers. They have the answers.
Right. And even Rutherford is always running around and kind of frenetic. But you're right. They're like friends and they're close, but it's like they almost have to look up and go, huh, like I almost want them to go, you never told me you had a sister. And I want Tindy to go, and you never asked.
Yeah.
Like you never asked me if I had a sister. You never
And Clyde,
asked
do
me
you have a
about my
sister?
parents. It's a long story. Technically, I have like 5.
Great. I did not know that. I feel like I've ever Myrriah, do you come from a vineyard?
Sort of, actually.
Oh, see, there we go. Now Star Trek is making us better friends.
There you go.
There we go.
The more you know.
Woo!
I just need that graphic on standby at all times.
Yeah.
Any theories of the big bad ship that seems to be? There's been some theories. Do you think it's people are being transported and ships are being destroyed, or do you think it is full death and destruction?
Like I thought it could be a great it could be anything until this last episode where you just see the Orions go, ah!
And then they're dissolved. Like it's pretty harsh. Like
but I have a theory on who or like not who, but like connection.
Okay.
And it's in the credits, and you know, and it tracks. It's, you know, the whale, Star Trek 4, right? Because Star Trek 4 is basically like the same MO. Like, nothing happens, and all of a sudden, all your power goes down.
Yeah.
So something related to Star Trek 4 seems to be where I would go towards right now.
Yeah, I'm like, what is the lower deck version of like the whales need to be saved? Like, what would be the species of animal that has come to ask the Cerritos for help?
I hope it's not the Packlets.
What if like that is like a lower decks whale?
Yeah.
A dolphin?
Well, I'm just saying, like, so they come from the whale ship, but they're the lower decks, and they're just like, you know.
Oh, it is a lower decks whale ship.
It's the Cerritos of whale ships.
Nicole's got a theory. Nicole says, I wonder if the ship from the beginning is gathering up species for menagerie. We never see bodies in the wreckage.
No,
but Choopy says that we did hear screams for the first time, which kind of sinks they were transported away.
Yeah, because I'm like, maybe there's no bodies because they're just being fully incinerated is like the vibe. But
yeah, I don't know. Like,
I guess to answer your question, Myrriah, what I'm trying to figure out is what's the theme and the tone of Lower Decks, and has it changed?
Right. I mean, we've had death, but usually with resurrection, right?
Right. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, if this was Rick and Morty, right?
Mhm.
Then they're dead,
Yeah.
right?
Not
But if this was the animated series, they're not.
my statement is like we've seen people die. We've seen like in season 1, like the first, the season finale, a whole ship gets
That's true.
killed by the Packlet, and it was
And we had a lot of destruction last season with those Texas ships.
Yeah, so
Yes.
so we might Bon Amigo. He
Yeah.
so people die, and it's okay that they die. I well, because they're cartoons, they're not real, blah blah blah. But anyway, but like
They were real to me, Paul. They were real to me.
That's right. Anyway, but my statement is like it's I don't think we have enough information quite yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see how it continues. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I hope we get some more like maybe a Rutherford or a T'Lyn backstory episode this season. I would very much enjoy that. But any other thoughts on this particular episode, y'all?
It's a good episode. I enjoyed it.
It's a good episode. I always like the look of Orion's ships that aren't that was like a pirate ship as opposed to just a what you call it, a shuttle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but yeah, I think maybe if I shave my head and have a couple of bolts, would you guys think that would look cool?
Look cool. I don't know. The chain tattoo could also be pretty cool.
I was thinking about that.
You gotta earn that though. You gotta earn that. If according to Trek Movie, the Orion ship that's attacked by the mystery ship is a similar design to the 22nd century Orion Interceptor from Enterprise. So
well,
maybe it's a time travel thing.
Maybe no,
because we've had so many Enterprise references. That could be interesting.
I know, like do we do time travel in Star Trek?
Just a little bit.
Not usually.
Sometimes on the occasion. I guess we did already do a time travel episode in Strange New Worlds with Lower Decks characters, so I don't know if they'll do it again. But
I mean, it's Star Trek. They could do a timey-wimey episode every 3 episodes, and we'd barely notice.
Yeah,
that something was different.
That is also true. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I'm excited for more Lower Decks next week. We will be back to talk about the 5th episode. You can subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Go ahead and give us like 5 stars if you're feeling the show on Apple or on Spotify. You can visit StarTrekPod.co for links to everywhere you can find the podcast or the video. If you are listening and you're like, oh, I'd like to check out the video podcast, you can find links there too, as well as to our Patreon. Clyde, where can people find us on the interwebs?
At Star Trek Pod.
Indeed. Thank you, Karen, for helping us run the Twitter account or the X account, whatever it's called, until we have to pay for it, and then we will be gone. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next time.
Everyone, check out that the dancing episode, in Enterprise, and let me know what you think. If it was like thumbs up or thumbs down.
Let us know. Let us know. We will.
Don't watch it with your kids.
Don't. That's a solo viewing time for you. All right, that's enough. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye, everyone.